Good afternoon, everybody. Putting a little closure on Saturday, going back and looking at things. A couple of things really stuck out. One, what we had to do was stay on the field, and we weren't able to stay on the field. We were, I think, 1 of 12 or 1 of 13 on third downs, and you can't do that on the road, and you can't do that in the type of offense that we want to play. And then just explosive play battle. They had, I think, 10 explosive plays. To us, that's 20 or more, and I think we had like 2. So those are 2 big factors that we've won in the first few games and didn't obviously win that on Saturday. So cleaned a lot of things up as a coaching staff that we talked about on Sunday. I think the biggest thing was the amount of things that we had in on third down. Probably the 2 weeks to prepare. We need to carve that up a little bit, and Mess and I and the offensive staff visited about that, and obviously we're still constructing the game plan, but we need to be a lot simpler on third down, and had a good workout yesterday in preparation for a really good Baylor team that's 4-0 and playing well and playing with a lot of confidence. So we've got our hands full this week.
Coach, you kind of already hit on it, but I was going to ask, with the benefit of hindsight, what's something in the game plan that you would have changed, and then something that worked better than maybe we would have even noticed watching it?
I think the biggest thing was just the amount of calls that we probably had in offensively, especially on third down. And part of that is having the 2 weeks to prepare. You just keep looking at stuff and finding things, and efficiency of running the football in the second half on first down. I think we were 7 of 8. 4 more yards, and I would have not thought that. Doesn't mean that we were successful then ultimately on second and third, but our first down efficiency in the second half was better than I thought.
Chris, after playing your first Big 12 game on the road, how do you feel about these next 3 games at home? And that said, how crucial does it become for you guys to have a good performance on Saturday? Well,
the fact that we're just coming home in general is good, because it's been since middle of September since we've been at home, or early September, I should say, that once we've been at home. I just look at this next one, forget that there's 3 in a row at home. Just this is the most important game. It's the most important week of preparation. Today's the biggest day, because we've got to continue to improve, and that's something that we talked about with the older guys and the captains. Is we in all phases we need to get better, and this is going to be a big week for us.
Baylor ranks number 2 in the Big 12 in rushing defense right now. What do you see that's making them so effective in stopping the run this year?
A couple things. One, it's an older defense. A lot of upperclassmen on defense that have played an awful lot of football, and they're hitting their fits really fast. I think they're flying to the football. They're really fast on defense. They know what they're doing on defense. I've been really impressed watching those guys fly around.
Coach, first off, do you have any more clarity on how long Malik Knowles will be out?
I do not have any more clarity. It truly will be a week-to-week deal, and we're hoping he can do some things this week in practice.
And as long as he's out, and given that you said that you thought the receivers needed to do a little bit better job getting open in the last game, are there any opportunities now for you to work in some other players at receiver and maybe expand the personnel in that area?
We're going to look at everybody, but we also have to design some things for those guys to get open, and design some things where we protect a little longer, so that we can find some openings and find some cracks. But without question, we'll look at everybody, but we're also going to do a little bit more, probably K-State versus K-State this week than we did last week. We did it during the open week, didn't do it as much last week. We'll get back to it so that all the wideouts are going against the top corners and top safeties during the week.
What's impressed you most about what Elijah Sullivan has done this year?
For starters, he moved from will linebacker to Mike backer in practice 14 or 13 of spring ball. And then when J-Ball got hurt, and then just being a will backer for most of his life, to go to play the middle doesn't seem like a lot to the layman people, but in football terms, that's tough, because you're the quarterback of the defense now. And he's done a really good job of settling in there. And then when we lost Fletch, we moved him back to will, and he had to play both spots, and that's difficult on anybody, especially somebody that's just learning a new position. And I think he's playing better and better, and I think he's getting more comfortable. We played him at nothing but Mike last week, which I think allowed him to get comfortable and allowed him to play faster.
On the topic of other receivers, how did you think John Holcomb did in his couple of snaps that he had out there?
He plays fast. That's the one thing that we were excited about watching John. He gets off the football fast. He can block the point of attack. We played him at tight end during the week of practice last week, and he's physically blocked the point of attack, and he wants to be involved, and that's a really good thing. Now, technique-wise, knowing the tight end position or the flex position is going to take some time, but he's at least wanting to learn so that he can help our football team. And so he's doing some really good things. Now, is he ready to play 60 snaps there? No. But we're hopeful that the more he can understand, the more he can be out there.
And then when he was in there at quarterback, what were the biggest issues just communication-wise with having
I think one of them was read wrong on a wristband. And one of them, I don't think we had the right personnel out there, but there's no question they were both supposed to be out there, and we had miscommunication. Can't happen, though. We've got to clean it up. Absolutely can't happen.
How important is it to get back to establishing a physical running game at the start of the game?
Well, we need to have it go for 60 minutes more than just the start of the game. We need to be able to avoid 2nd and 10 and avoid 3rd and 8, and I'm confident in our offensive line's ability because we've got a bunch of older guys there that know that we need to identify things and play faster and play better there. But for us to be successful on offense, we have to be able to rush the football. Does that mean we have to rush it for 300 yards? No, but we have to rush it with enough success to open up the play action.
Once they kind of took away the running game early, and you had some problems getting guys open, were you really handcuffed as an offense?
Yeah, for the most part, because we couldn't stay on the field. We couldn't get into a rhythm. If you have an 8, 9, 10-play drive, maybe you can get into a rhythm. All that being said, we're down 10-0, and Wyatt makes a strip sack, and we've got the ball 1st and 10, and we have it at 2nd and 1 at the 30, that if we get a first down and get points out of that drive, whether it's 10-3 or 10-7, does the game change? I don't know, but it gives us more confidence. Instead, we have a penalty and we don't get the first down, and now kind of took a little momentum away. Does that mean it was going to change the outcome? Not necessarily, but it would have helped our momentum.
You all have been pretty consistent and transparent on just looking at things day by day and week to week. But with an injury like Malik's or anybody's, do you look into the bye week, next week and then start to think, well, how much of a risk is it to bring him back now when we have that, or do you try to avoid that part of the thought?
We avoid that. Fletch practiced yesterday. Does that mean he's going to play this week? No, but at least he's back practicing. If we had a number of guys that missed practice yesterday, but that's pretty typical after a Big 12 game. I don't think anybody will be out, but we just had a number of guys that missed. If Malik can do some things, and we'll find out Wednesday or Thursday, if he can do some things, then we're going to play him. I just can't tell you if he'll be able to or not until Mindy and the medical staff, get him out of the boot and see what he can do on Wednesday or Thursday.
If Malik isn't able to go, I know, your hope would be that the entire group would step up. But in your mind, is there maybe one or two guys you're really kind of looking at, saying Sebastian or Joshua or even Chris Herron?
It's all of them. It's all of them, and it's the offensive line, and it's the quarterback, it's the running back, it's the defense, it's everybody. Everybody had to play better when we didn't have Wyatt Hubert at Mississippi State, and everybody did play better. And if we don't have Malik, everybody has to raise their level of play up.
And kind of as a follow-up on Cody, I mean, I know he's obviously not a freshman, but he's also we noticed the whole thing that you can play the 4 games without burning a red shirt. With him, is there any thinking that if he can't go soon, we might just see?
Yeah, we haven't really discussed that, just because I know how much he wants to play and how thin we are. Really, not necessarily at the linebacker position. We are a little bit there with 3, but on special teams as well.
Can you give us the backstory behind the new alternate uniforms and what it was like to show it to the team yesterday?
It was pretty cool. Something we've been talking about for an awful long time, of the white helmet and white pants, and with Kenny's crew and visiting with us of when we were going to pull that out. We didn't want to do it early in the season. Wanted to wait till a conference game, and this seemed like a perfect time to do it. We needed to unveil it yesterday just so that the guys Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday have a chance to wear the helmet. That's the biggest thing. You know, you can't unveil that on a Friday. The kids would freak out if they have to put a helmet on they haven't worn for the whole week. And I didn't want to put it out in the open week and have that out there for 2 weeks. And so this just seemed like the right time.
And can we expect more tweaks as the season goes on there?
You know, let's just start with the same thing. Let's just start with this week and see where we're at. We just trying to get through week to week.
What all goes into cleaning up missed assignments and breaking it down in film room and cleaning it up on the practice field?
You know, you just said it both, breaking it down in film and then taking what you learn in the classroom to an individual setting in practice where you're just working with your own position to maybe a group setting where you're working with the tight ends and the O-linemen or the running backs and quarterbacks, to taking it into a team setting to work it against like the first defense, to taking it into a scout team setting. I mean, it's repetition, repetition, repetition. And the one thing that you know, we need to do a better job of is you can watch something and feel like you understand how to block it, how to scheme it up, how to make sure you're in the right fit on defense. But when the pictures change, which they always do every Saturday because not everybody lines up in the same thing as what you practiced, you just have to be ready to adapt and adjust. And that's something that I'll be honest, with us just being 3 games into our tenure here, there's a lot of adapting and adjusting we haven't been able to do yet. And you look at the 3 games we've had, we had 2 blowout wins where we played a half and then a really good football game at Mississippi State. We're talking, we have 2 games of things to evaluate on and to continue to try to adapt and adjust when people do some things differently. And that's something that nobody wants here, but we're going to go through some of those growing pains, and we have to find our way through those and make sure that we eliminate some of those mistakes. All that being said, our kids played their absolute tails off for 60 minutes, and with 7 minutes left, we're down 10 and have a chance to get a stop on a 3rd and 3. That tells me these kids never gave up. They were battling there all the way to the end, and we had a chance late.
How positive of a step did you feel like it was for special teams in general on Saturday?
Well, I was really pleased with Blake because he came and banged in a couple of long field goals that we're going to need him to continue to be accurate and continue to have great confidence. I thought Devin punted the ball well. We need to shore up some things in protection on punt. It wasn't maybe as close as it maybe have looked live to a block, but we need to shore some things up, and we're always trying to get better at the return game. Obviously, we had the big one against Mississippi State, but that's an ongoing battle of always trying to improve on our return game.
Another question on Elijah Sullivan. He's such a fascinating guy. What kind of leadership attributes does he possess, and how did he maybe step up as a leader when J-Ball went down?
Well, he's done it more by example. I want him to be more vocal, but when you weren't the vocal guy and all of a sudden you're thrust into that role, sometimes it takes time to feel comfortable, to get out of your comfort zone, and he's starting to do that. He can do it by his play because everybody really respects how fast he plays, how hard he plays. I want him, and I'll challenge him to be more vocal. But I just love the way he's playing and how fast he's playing. And you know, there are no loafs, there are no plays off. That kid plays at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and that's what I so appreciate when you flip on the film. You say, boy, that kid loves the game and loves to play. Now, can he be more vocal? You bet. We need him to be more vocal.
I know you've had a limited time with him just since the game, but how hard did Skylar take the loss, and what's his response been like since then?
You know, he took it hard just like I took it hard, just like everybody that cares takes it hard. I had a pretty good visit with him in my office yesterday. Couple things. One, how proud I was the way he competed and how he never gave in and he never got down. He never got discouraged. Even if he did, he didn't show it. He just kept battling. And then we talked about some things schematically that we'd like to maybe make some adjustments on, some things schematically that I'd like him to be more involved with. But that's the progression of a quarterback. That's a progression of somebody that's still learning our system. And I know that as highly competitive as he is, I'm excited to watch him continue to grow as we move forward this year.
Just wanted to get your thoughts on the bill passed by California yesterday, profiting off of image and likeness, and maybe how that impacts your recruiting now that you're looking to recruit that region.
Well, it was going to come sooner or later, and I still think there's going to be a bunch of layers to it that we're going to learn about over the next 3 and 4 years. And so I know it's the landscape of the NCAA and all of those things are changing. Let's just see how we all adapt to it over the next 3 or 4 years. Did I make an initial thought on it? Not really, just because it's kind of a long ways away. But I know that we need to, probably in off seasons, be proactive on what we're going to do.
I mean, I know this is a game of hypotheticals, obviously, but if more states continue to add it, does that make it very important for the state of Kansas to start moving that way for you guys?
I don't really have an opinion on it.
You had back-to-back drives against Oklahoma State, I believe, in the first quarter where you guys picked up 9 yards on first down and then couldn't actually move the chains out of it. What did you and your staff learn from those two series?
Well, pretty simple. You got to get a first down. I don't mind us taking a shot like we did to Nick Leonard's on the one. That was a really well-designed play, and they covered it pretty well, but we still had an opportunity there. But then you just need to be able to we need to be able to get a yard on third down, fourth down, whatever it may be. We just that's the frustrating part that I know that Coach Mess and the offensive staff are continuing to battle and continuing to understand that we have to stay on the field. I thought our defense did a nice job, but we got to stay on the field so that they only had 60-some plays. They just were really productive 60-some plays. If we could have gotten our play count in the 60s and limited them another 10 snaps, it would have helped us. We just have to stay on the field.
Baylor, kind of like you guys, has a number of different backs that use that offer different things. What do you think of that group and those guys as individuals? Yeah,
I think they're really good at the skill positions, and it starts with the quarterback. I think he's a tremendous football player. Can beat you with his arm, can beat you with his legs, keeps plays alive really, really well. I was really impressed with him. Obviously, watching the first few games where they had some blowout wins, but against Iowa State, that does an awful lot of things on defense. Pressures and different pictures, and I thought he managed the game exceptionally well. And then on the 2-minute drive, he won the game. He just flat won it because he just made plays, and so it starts with him. But no, they have really good backs and receivers.
There's a pretty remarkable stat from Baylor here that they've blocked 7 kicks in their last 9 games, and last year they blocked an extra point against K-State. Yeah. So I think sometimes people seem to assume that if you guys do what you're supposed to do in the kicking game, that there really should never be a block. So how much more do you emphasize the importance of the kicking game this week?
You bet. It's always a big emphasis, but those things do alarm us. Whether it's just like when we had the big return against Mississippi State. I know that people know that special teams is always good at K-State, but I think that made Oklahoma State put that much more emphasis on it. Same thing with us. They have blocked a number of kicks, and a lot of it is penetration and guys getting after it and refusing to be blocked, because it's not like they had anybody free coming. They did a great job and got the penetration, were able to get the block. And so just your technique, your fundamentals, all the things you work on from the spring through fall camp have to you have to make sure you show up on those in that phase of the game.
And I don't want this to sound kind of like a ridiculous question, but you've just won so much the last 6-7 years. So do you find it easier to get over losses because it's like, hey, I've got so many wins, or do you take them tougher because they've just been so few and far between?
Yeah, no, you take them harder, I'll be honest. At North Dakota State, every win felt like a relief, and that's terrible to say. It really is terrible to say that it was a relief, because you were a target every week. I mean, everybody circled that game every week for 8 years, and so you won a game, and I'd come home and I'd say, man, why am I not enjoying this? I'm more relieved. So when you did lose, it just tore your heart out, and it does. And I'm a competitor by nature, and I was really frustrated in myself that we didn't win. I was frustrated in general that we didn't play our best football. But I think it's going to reveal a lot of things from character, resolve, the leadership. Starts with me, then spreads out through Mess and Hayes and the staff to the players. When adversity strikes, you better be able to rise up. And that's the message that we've given the guys, and we've talked about it as a staff. And Losing, nobody wants to lose. Everything's worse during the week. And that's just the reality of it is. And sometimes people get lost in the fact you win a game you shouldn't win, you still won the game. And nobody's going to end at the end of the season and say, you know what, you should have been 7-5, but you're 8-4. I'd say, so we were 8-4. It's like you shouldn't have won a national championship because you should have lost game whatever. So we won the national championship. That's all that people really worry about at the end of the year. So no, losing stinks.
Chris, when you look at Baylor, again, talent all over the map, but is there something unique about what they do compared to an Oklahoma State or some others that you'll see?
I think the unique thing for me is I think they've transformed their defense from the last time that K-State played them. The last time that K-State played them, obviously I wasn't a part of that, and Barnes ripped them. And they were in a lot of 4 down, and now they're in a ton of 3 down. And I don't know if that had I wasn't there. I don't know if that had anything to do with the kind of schematic change, but they are much more 3 down. In whatever we saw in last year's game, we don't really want to even use because it's so different last year to this year.
You talked about some schematic things offensively. Defensively, it happened a little bit against Nichols, maybe not so much against Bowling Green or Mississippi State, but Oklahoma State kind of got you up the middle. Are there some things you have to adjust on that side as well to avoid that?
Yeah, we have to identify it better, more than anything. We have to identify the stacks, so to speak, in the levels of the linebackers so that we don't give up that penetration, because you're exactly right. You can get the edge if you can stop the penetration. If you can't stop the penetration, you can't get the edge. You can't crease them inside, and that's something that obviously we learned an awful lot, I hope, from Saturday, is the inside penetration, especially in a 3 down front. Especially in a 3 down front with backers, and against Baylor, their safeties will be blitzing a lot.
Maybe you're not as big of a nerd about this as some of us, but what's your favorite detail of the helmet or the uniform? What part of it do you like the best?
I don't have one. I honestly, because this is, it's all different and new to you guys. I don't get caught up in it. We could wear whatever, and we better play better and play well in what we're in. So no, I don't get caught up in the uniforms.